ノートブック LM って知ってます？その今朝の配信をGoogle のですね、ノートブック LM というやつにね、放り投げてですね、そうするとね、配信の内容に、なんていうの、質問することができるんだよね。AI がさ、ジェミニが裏で動いてると思うんですけど、ジェミニ 1.5 か 2.0 か知らんけど、ジェミニが裏で動いてると思うんですけど、その音声をね、投げ込むとね、それについて質問ができるようになるんだけど、そうするとね、右の方になんかね、音声を作るボタンみたいなのがあってですね。それを押すとね、それがね、僕の音声のやつを文字起こししてまた音声に戻すとかじゃなくて、僕の投げた、昨日の配信、今朝の配信の内容を、文字で理解するのかな？理解した上で、それをね、音声でね、なんかね、対話形式でね、また英語の音声になるんです。ちょっと今のところ英語しか、対応してないみたいですけど、これは相場日本語になるでしょうね。これね、もうラジオみたいなわけ、なんか会話帳なの。なんかね、まだちょっと僕よく知らないけど、なんかね、そこの会話にね、自分も参加できることができるっぽいですね。どうもね。だけど、ちょっと、今日の段階ではちょっと参加してない。英語僕話せないので。でもね、ちょっと、どうですかね、これ、英語しかないんですけどね、今日の配信、僕の配信を聞いた人、この英語のやつをちょっと聞いてみてくださいよ。これ、ある程度英語わかる人だったら、うわ、すごってなるんじゃないかなと思うんですけど、僕の配信の内容を、要はね、一人の配信の内容をね、一人で喋ったやつを聞くとね、やっぱり分かりにくいんでね、それをね、二人の会話帳形式にしてるんですよ。ただ英語なんでね、皆さんちょっとあんまり英語得意じゃない人はあんまり分からんかもしれませんけど、ちょっとなんか読み間違いとか音声聞き取り間違いというか、バスウェイの精神科医リブラがちょっと聞き取りなかったみたいで、精神科医のクリムラ先生みたいな、なんつったかな、ドクタークリムラって言ったかな、クリムラ惜しい、リブラ、クリムラ惜しいっていうね、のありましたけどね、そういうのでね、もうちょっとこんなことできるようになったんだと思ってちょっと驚いたので、少しね、英語で面白くないと思う人は聞かないでいただければと思いますけども、こんなんがありますよということをちょっとここにね、載せておこうと思って、配信を上げました。はい、暇な人はちょっと、英語だからあれですけど、ちょっと聞いてみてくださいよ。すごいね。もうね、これもうこんなのができるんだったら間もなくあれじゃん。もう一人でできるじゃん。なんだっけ。P ライン。もう P ラインいらなくなっちゃうから、これ。すげえな、これ。ということで、さようなり。
Alright, so today we're going to be tackling something that I think everyone listening has probably thought about at some point. This whole idea of lived experience versus like actual expertise.
Right.
And especially when it comes to mental health, you know?
Yeah.
There's so much out there.
Absolutely.
And, we got a clip from a listener, from Dr. Kurimura, who's a psychiatrist over in Japan.
Interesting.
And his take on this is really, really making me think.
Okay.
And, essentially what he's arguing is that while going through something like depression, obviously gives you insight into like what that's like.
Sure.
It doesn't automatically make you like the expert on how everyone should deal with it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I totally get that.
And what's so interesting is he uses this baseball analogy to like drive this point home.
I like it.
And it's basically like saying, okay, so someone hits a home run once and then tells every batter to just swing for the fences.
Oh my gosh.
No matter like who's pitching, what the game situation is.
And really,
that
makes no sense.
Like, can you imagine?
It sounds almost comical, right?
Yeah, but that's kind of what happens though, right?
That's exactly what he's getting at.
Onward.
It's like applying one person's experience as this blanket solution can not only be ineffective, but like also potentially harmful.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's a really great point, and I think it highlights how we often crave those like simple answers.
Oh, totally.
Right? Especially when we're dealing with something as complex and personal as mental health.
Absolutely.
We latch on to those relatable stories.
Oh, for sure.
Seeking comfort and guidance, but the reality is these issues are rarely ever black and white.
Exactly, and to that point about seeking simple answers, I think that's where this distinction between experience and expertise becomes like super critical,
because it's like,
well, think about it this way. Depression, anxiety,
Right.
even something like bipolar disorder. These conditions can manifest in so many different ways.
Absolutely.
And what works for one person
Right.
could be completely wrong for someone else.
Yeah.
And it's dangerous to assume that there's like a one-size-fits-all approach.
So is Dr. Kuramura saying that personal experience is completely worthless?
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay.
I'm sure there's value in hearing from other people who've, been through similar struggles.
For sure.
Right. He's not dismissing the value of those shared experiences at all.
Okay.
Because, those can be so powerful for like building empathy.
Right.
And finding support.
Yeah.
But where I think he draws the line is when people present their personal experience as like the ultimate solution.
Okay.
As if it holds like the key to unlocking everyone's mental health.
So I'm starting to see where he's coming from. It's like just because you found a way out of a maze doesn't mean you have the map for everyone else.
Exactly.
Right. That's a great way to put it.
And in the source material, he brings up an example of someone with bipolar disorder telling others to just power through their mood swings.
Oh, wow.
But as he points out, bipolar disorder often has a strong genetic component.
Right.
Meaning it's influenced by factors beyond someone's like direct control.
Exactly. And that's where professional expertise comes in.
Okay.
Right? A qualified mental health professional understands those nuances.
Yeah.
The interplay of genetics, environment, individual variation, and can tailor treatment accordingly.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that everyone's depression, for example, might have different roots.
Totally.
Different triggers, different, ways of manifesting.
And this whole idea of individual variation is something he keeps coming back to.
For sure.
Can you unpack that a bit more for the listeners? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So basically it means recognizing that we're all wired differently.
Okay.
Right? And what works for one person might not work for another.
Gotcha.
And it's about moving away from those oversimplified solutions.
Right.
And embracing the complexity of mental health.
So in a way, he's advocating for a more critical approach to mental health information.
Absolutely.
He's encouraging us to question those who claim to have all the answers based solely on their own experience.
He even uses the term red flag.
Wow.
When someone positions themselves as an expert.
Okay.
Just because they've like personally battled depression or anxiety.
Gotcha. So if I'm hearing you right, it's not about dismissing lived experience altogether, but rather recognizing its limitations.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's about approaching these conversations with like a healthy dose of skepticism.
Okay.
And understanding that lived experience is just one piece of a much larger puzzle.
And a puzzle that often requires the expertise of trained professionals
Absolutely.
to help us put all the pieces together.
I think that's a great way to put it.
Okay, so we've established so far that personal experience doesn't automatically equal mental health expert.
Right.
But what about those who have been through something and genuinely want to help others?
That's a great question.
Is there a way to share those experiences responsibly?
Yeah.
Without falling into that trap he's warning us about?
That's a great question, and one that he actually addresses directly in the podcast clip.
Okay, so let's dive into that in part 2. I'm really curious to hear what he has to say about finding that balance between lived experience and responsible sharing.
Awesome. It's interesting because he brings up this idea of like the trap of good intentions, where people who've struggled with mental illness feel they almost have this like responsibility to help others going through similar challenges.
Totally, I can see that.
Right. And while that empathy and desire to help is commendable, it's important to recognize that it doesn't necessarily equip you to give like accurate or helpful advice.
Yeah, so even with the best of intentions, you could end up doing more harm than good.
Think about it. Like, imagine someone who overcame depression through sheer willpower, telling others to just snap out of it.
Oh, wow.
Right? That advice might feel really empowering to the person giving it.
Yeah.
But it completely ignores the complex biological and psychological factors that contribute to depression.
That's a really powerful example.
Yeah.
It shows you how important it is to understand the nuances of these conditions before you start giving advice.
And it touches on the limitations of personal experience.
Right.
Right. What worked for one person might not work for another.
Exactly.
And promoting a one-size-fits-all approach can actually prevent people from seeking professional help. That could be really beneficial.
So how do you strike that balance then? How do you share your experience in a way that's both authentic and responsible?
Well, Dr. Kuramura suggests focusing on shared humanity rather than prescriptive advice.
Gotcha.
So instead of saying like, this is what cured my depression, Try sharing, this is what helped me cope during a difficult time.
I see the difference.
Yeah.
It's more about like
Yeah.
support and understanding than being like, I'm the expert with all the answers.
Exactly. And it's about being transparent about the limitations of your own experience.
Okay.
Right? Acknowledge that your journey is just one of many.
Yeah.
Right? And encourage others to seek professional guidance if they need it.
He also talks about the dangers of these self-proclaimed experts online
Yes.
who gain a following by sharing their stories and offering advice that might not be grounded in evidence.
Right, because now it's easier than ever to build a platform
Right.
and attract an audience.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that everyone with a platform has the expertise to give accurate information.
For sure.
Especially when it comes to mental health.
So how can we be more discerning
Well,
consumers of this content online?
Dr. Kuramura emphasizes looking for credibility.
Okay.
You know, check credentials, look for evidence-based information. Be wary of anyone claiming to have all the answers based solely on their own experience.
It's like that old saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Exactly. There are no quick fixes or magic bullets
Right.
when it comes to mental health.
Yeah.
It's a journey.
He also makes a point about the language we use.
You think?
Like being cautious about throwing around terms like expert and authority.
Right, because they imply a level of certainty that just doesn't exist
Right.
with mental health.
It's also nuanced.
And it's constantly evolving.
Yeah.
Even professionals with years of experience
Right.
are continually learning and refining their understanding.
So maybe instead of striving to be experts,
Yeah.
we should focus on being more informed,
Yeah.
compassionate, and responsible
Yeah.
in the way that we talk about these issues.
It's about recognizing that mental health is a spectrum
Yeah.
and everyone's experience is unique.
Mhm.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
And being humble enough to say, hey, I don't have all the answers, even if I've been through this myself.
This reminds me of something else he said
Okay.
that really resonated with me.
What's that?
He talked about the importance of understanding the why
Mm-hmm.
behind our experiences.
Oh, interesting.
He argued that simply recounting what happened isn't enough.
Yeah.
Right? We need to delve deeper into like the underlying causes,
Okay.
the contributing factors, the potential triggers.
Right, so going beyond just the surface level
Exactly.
and looking at like the deeper layers.
And that's where the value of professional expertise really comes in.
Okay.
Right? Therapists, psychiatrists, and other mental health professionals are trained to help us unpack those layers, identify patterns, and develop coping mechanisms that are tailored to our individual needs.
So he's encouraging us to be curious
Yes.
about our own mental health
Curiosity is key.
and really explore
Yeah.
those deeper levels.
It's about recognizing that there's always more to learn,
Mhm.
both from our own experiences and from the knowledge and expertise of others.
He also touched on this idea of like romanticizing or glorifying
Oh, yeah.
mental illness,
That's a really interesting point.
which I thought was interesting.
It is a delicate balance.
Yeah.
Because while sharing our stories can be empowering
Mhm.
and help reduce stigma,
Right.
we want to avoid presenting mental illness as something desirable
Right. It's not fashionable.
or fashionable. Exactly.
It's about finding that middle ground where we can be open
Yes.
and honest about our struggles without minimizing the pain
Right,
and
and-
challenges that
yeah.
come with mental illness.
And being mindful of the potential for triggering content,
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
right? Even with the best of intentions.
Yeah.
Sharing certain details or experiences can inadvertently cause harm to others.
So it's not just about what you share,
Yeah.
but it's how you share it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about being sensitive and responsible.
Yeah.
Recognizing that what might be helpful for one person
Right.
could be triggering for another.
This all kind of ties back
Yeah.
to his main point about
Yeah.
subjective truth versus objective truth,
Oh, that's a great connection
right?
because our personal experiences shape our perceptions and beliefs,
Yeah.
right? And they hold a certain truth for us.
Right.
But that doesn't mean they represent objective truth
Okay.
or universal principles
Gotcha.
that apply to everyone.
And that's where bias can come in.
Exactly.
Right.
Our personal experiences can sometimes cloud our judgment,
Yeah.
making it hard to see the bigger picture
Mm-hmm.
or to consider alternative perspectives.
And that's why professional expertise is so crucial.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right. Mental health professionals
Yeah.
are trained to approach these issues from a more objective standpoint,
Right.
taking into account a wider range of factors and evidence-based approaches.
It's like you're looking at the world through one lens
Yes.
and assuming that that's the only way to see things.
Exactly. And as Dr. Krumer suggests,
Yeah.
we need to expand our toolbox,
Okay.
right? To incorporate different perspectives,
Gotcha.
different approaches, different types of knowledge.
So a more holistic view.
Exactly. And that's what allows us to approach these really complex issues with more nuance and understanding.
It sounds like he's really advocating for a more holistic approach to mental health.
I think that's a great way to summarize it.
Yeah, it's like that saying, to the man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Right.
It's like our experiences can kind of become our hammer.
Yeah.
And then we view every mental health issue through that one lens.
And that's why it's so important to diversify our mental health toolkit, so to speak.
Right.
To incorporate different perspectives,
Yeah.
different approaches, different types of knowledge. And I think that helps us really, understand and address these issues
Totally.
in a more nuanced and effective way.
And he also talks about how important it is to approach all this with humility,
Yeah.
And to
Absolutely.
be curious and acknowledge that,
Yeah.
even if you are a professional,
Right.
there's still so much to learn and understand.
He makes a great point about how even professionals with years and years of training and experience are constantly evolving and refining their understanding of mental health.
Yeah, because it's a field that is just
It's a dynamic field.
constantly changing
It really is.
with new research and insights all the time.
Absolutely.
So it's like we're all on this journey
Yes.
of learning,
Continuous learning.
both individually and as a society.
I love that.
So to bring it all back to you, the listener,
Yeah.
we want to leave you with this thought.
Okay.
How can you balance the value of lived experience
Right.
with the need for evidence-based knowledge when you're seeking help
We
or making decisions about your own mental health?
It's a question that deserves a lot of reflection, I think.
Really.
And really critical thinking, and really just being informed and discerning and proactive in your own journey.
And remember, you're not alone on this journey.
Yeah. There's so many resources out there.
Absolutely.
From qualified professionals to supportive communities,
Yeah.
all dedicated to helping people navigate the complexities of mental health.
That's so true.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, this was great.
We hope you found it as thought-provoking as we did.
Absolutely.
And until next time, keep learning, keep questioning,
Yes.
and keep seeking out those golden nuggets of knowledge.
Love it.